Welcome to this video, Penetration Testing, the beginner's guide to pen testing. In today's digital age, the security of our systems and networks is more critical than ever. As technology advances, so do threats posed by malicious actors. That's where penetration testing comes in. In this video, we'll explore the fascinating world of penetration testing. We provide a beginner-friendly introduction to this essential practice. Let's first define pen testing. Penetration testing, commonly known as pen tests, is a systematic and controlled approach to evaluating the security of computer systems, networks, or web applications. It involves simulating real-world attacks by professionals such as penetration testers or ethical hackers. They identify vulnerabilities and weaknesses that could be exploited by malicious actors. Penetration testing aims to assess the effectiveness of an organization's security measures and identify areas where improvements are needed. By simulating potential attack scenarios, penetration testers attempt to exploit vulnerabilities in a controlled environment without causing any harm. This proactive approach helps organizations identify and address security weaknesses before they can be exploited by real attackers. Penetration testing offers numerous advantages for organizations aiming to strengthen their security defenses. Let's explore the key benefits of penetration testing. 1. Identifying vulnerabilities. One of the primary benefits of penetration testing is the ability to identify vulnerabilities in systems, networks, or applications. 2. Validating security controls. Penetration testing provides a means to validate the effectiveness of existing security controls. 3. Enhancing incident response preparedness. By conducting controlled simulated attacks, organizations can evaluate their ability to detect, respond to, and mitigate security incidents. 4. Meeting regulatory compliance. Many industries and sectors have specific regulatory requirements regarding security and data protection that they need to adhere to. 5. Prioritizing remediation efforts. Penetration testing provides valuable insights into the severity and potential impact of identified vulnerabilities. This allows us to prioritize remediation efforts. 6. Safeguarding reputation and trust. A successful cyber attack can severely damage an organization's reputation and erode customer trust. 7. Cost savings. Identifying and addressing vulnerabilities before they are exploited can help organizations avoid the financial impact of a data breach and the reputational damage involved. The penetration testing process consists of several key stages that guide the tester through the assessment from start to finish. The stages in the penetration testing process we will discuss today are: 1. Planning and reconnaissance. 2. Scanning and vulnerability assessment. 3. Exploitation and post-exploitation analysis. 4. Reporting and recommendations. 5. Remediation of the environment. Let's explore the various stages involved in the penetration testing process, starting with the first stage, planning and reconnaissance. A well-defined planning and reconnaissance stage should include the following. 1. The goals and scope defined. First, determine the objectives of the pen tests and set the scope of the testing. 2. Information gathering. Information gathering, also known as reconnaissance, involves collecting as much data as possible about the target systems or applications. 3. Vulnerability identification. During the reconnaissance phase, it's essential to identify potential entry points and vulnerabilities. 4. Rules of engagement and authorization. This involves documenting the agreed upon testing methods, timeframes, and any limitations or exclusions for the penetration testing. 5. Risk assessment and impact analysis. This involves evaluating the potential risks with the penetration test, impact of successful exploitation, and safeguards to minimize adverse effects. 6. Collaboration and communication. Planning and reconnaissance often involve collaboration with key stakeholders, such as system administrators, IT teams, or management. The information gathered during this phase serves as the foundation for subsequent stages of the penetration testing process. Once the planning and reconnaissance phase is complete, the next phase is the scanning and vulnerability assessment. Let's explore techniques and tools used to identify vulnerabilities in this phase. 1. Port scanning. Port scanning is a fundamental technique used to identify open ports on target systems. This helps in understanding the network topology and potential entry points for analysis. 2. Network mapping. Network mapping creates a visual representation of the target network. Network mapping provides a view of the network, aiding in identifying potential attack vectors and systems. 3. Vulnerability scanning. Using specialized tools, testers scan target systems or applications for vulnerabilities. Vulnerability scanners help identify potential entry points attackers could exploit. 4. Web application scanning. For web applications, specialized scanning tools are used to identify vulnerabilities such as cross-site scripting, SQL injection, or insecure server configurations. 5. Fingerprinting and service identification. Fingerprinting techniques involve gathering information about the target system's operating system, running services, and software versions. This information helps in identifying specific vulnerabilities or exploits that are relevant to the target. 6. False positive analysis. During the scanning and vulnerability assessment phase, it's essential to analyze and validate the findings to eliminate false positives. After conducting scanning and vulnerability assessment, the penetration testing process moves into the critical phase of exploitation and the post-exploitation analysis. In this section, we'll explore the techniques used to exploit identified vulnerabilities. Then the subsequent analysis activities carried out to assess the impact of successful exploitation. Let's first discuss and look at the steps in the exploitation phase. 1. Exploiting vulnerabilities. Exploitation involves attempting to leverage identified vulnerabilities to gain unauthorized access or control over the target system or application. The goal is to simulate a real-world attacker and demonstrate the potential consequences of successful exploitation. 2. Privilege escalation. Once initial access is gained, penetration testers often aim to escalate their privileges within the target system or application. Privilege escalation involves acquiring higher levels of access, such as administrative or root privileges, which grant greater control over the environment. 3. Post-exploitation activities. Post-exploitation activities focus on understanding the extent of control gained and the potential paths an attacker could take within the target environment. This includes exploring the compromised system, escalating privileges, and pivoting to other systems or networks. The purpose is to assess the impact of a successful breach and identify further vulnerabilities that an attacker could exploit. 4. Data exfiltration. As part of the post-exploitation phase, penetration testers may attempt to exfiltrate sensitive data from the target environment, showcasing the impact of lost confidential info. The post-exploitation analysis of results. Throughout the exploitation and post-exploitation phases, penetration testers meticulously document their findings and observations. These are analyzed and discussed with the customer and will feed into the security posture reports. The analysis of results allows organizations to understand the severity of the identified vulnerabilities. Now let's look at reporting and remediation. At the conclusion, pen testers compile a report that details their findings, the vulnerabilities exploited, and the potential impact of successful attacks. The report includes actionable recommendations for improving the security posture. These recommendations help prioritize remediation efforts and address the identified vulnerabilities effectively. Once the vulnerabilities and weaknesses are identified during the penetration testing process, the next crucial step is remediation. Remediation involves addressing and mitigating these security issues to strengthen the overall security posture of the system or network. It is an essential part of the process as it aims to close the gaps and minimize the risks identified during the assessment. Now that we understand the pen testing process, we are ready to discuss the different types of penetration testing methodologies. Black box, white box, and gray box testing. Black box testing is an essential approach in penetration testing that simulates the perspective of an external attacker with no prior knowledge of the target system. This approach mimics the scenario of a real-world attacker who has no insider information. They must rely solely on external observations and techniques to identify vulnerabilities and exploit them. By approaching the target from an outsider's perspective, testers can evaluate the effectiveness of security measures, such as firewalls, intrusion detection systems, and access controls. Black box testing employs a range of techniques to gather information and identify vulnerabilities. This may include network scanning, web application testing, social engineering, and reconnaissance. The goal of black box testing is to replicate common attack vectors that external attackers may employ. By mimicking these attacks, testers can uncover weaknesses that could potentially be exploited. Now let's discuss white box testing. White box testing involves having full knowledge and access to the internal architecture, design, and implementation of the target system. This approach allows penetration testers to thoroughly analyze the system's security controls, configurations, and potential vulnerabilities that may not be apparent from an external viewpoint. White box testing examines the system's components, such as the underlying infrastructure, network devices, operating systems, and software applications. White box testing provides insight into dependencies and potential security risks for each component. We can identify weaknesses from misconfigurations, insecure coding, and poor system integration. White box testing often involves reviewing the source code and conducting static and dynamic analysis of applications. Testers can identify vulnerabilities such as input validation flaws, insecure coding patterns, SQL injection, or buffer overflows. White box testing allows testers to assess the effectiveness of access controls, authentication mechanisms, and authorization processes within the system. White box testing provides a detailed and thorough assessment of a system's security from an insider's perspective. By having access to internal information, architectures, and configurations, testers can uncover vulnerabilities that may not be visible through external testing alone. Let's discuss the final testing methodology, gray box testing. Gray box testing combines elements of black box and white box testing. It involves having partial knowledge of the target system, striking a balance between an external attacker and an insider. In gray box testing, the pen tester has some level of insider knowledge about target systems. This information may include system documentation, network diagrams, user roles, or other relevant details. This partial understanding enables testers to focus their efforts on specific areas of the system while still maintaining an external perspective. Gray box testing allows testers to simulate the actions of privileged insiders, such as employees or contractors with elevated access. By leveraging the partial knowledge they have, testers attempt to exploit vulnerabilities that might be accessible to insiders with certain privileges. This approach helps identify risks associated with internal threats and potential misuse of privileges. By combining external observations with insider info, pen testers can identify specific entry points, target critical components, and simulate an attacker with partial knowledge moving through the system. Gray box testing strikes a balance between the comprehensive analysis of white box testing and the broader scope of black box testing. Testers focus on areas of the system more likely to have vulnerabilities, reducing the time and effort required for testing while still providing valuable insights into the system's security posture. We hope you enjoyed learning more about the penetration testing process and the types of pen test utilized. Thank you for watching Stuff About Stuff. Subscribe to be notified on future technology videos.